Kristof from ASE. Glad to have you here. What a wild and wet week it has been. I can tell you from a Sydney perspective, it has certainly come into winter, that's for sure. And thank you to everyone for attending this week's special event with Microsoft on using AI in your business. I will get into some of that in a little bit, but first things first. Big thank you to everyone at Ingram yesterday. Ingram Micro Experience in Sydney was a fantastic event. Glad to see so many of you there. Thank you also for making the time to catch up with me. It's always appreciated. Now, big question I had this morning from several of you is around the DELL breach. Yes, DELL has had a data breach. It does affect people in the United States, Canada, India, and Australia, with 49 million customers' data breached. Now, from the reports from DELL themselves, they have been notifying customers and have advised that only your email address, your actual physical address, and personal name and last name, first name, I should say, has the only information that's been breached as personally identifiable information. Of course, your order details have potentially also gone at the same time. Is this cause for concern? Absolutely. A big vendor like DELL being breached is always cause for concern. The data that has been breached that we've been notified about isn't what we would consider highly personal. Your details can be available on most of this information, including voting websites, as well as finding your email address on the interweb. So as always, please be safe. Make sure you're communicating with your partners and vendors on your details and making sure that you're keeping yourself up to date. One top tip that was always suggested for everyone, if you are doing online activity, please make sure you have a specific email address for that. Do not use your corporate email address. Try and avoid using personal email addresses where possible. Create yourself a Gmail, Outlook, Hotmail account. Something like Kristof Shopping Online at hotmail.com means that when these events do happen, and they do happen quite frequently at the moment, that your compromise only limits to the email address that's in question, and that is that personalized online activity email address. Now, another big question that has come out this week is around AI and using it within your organization. Are you ready as an organization? Now, we had a session with Microsoft and Varonis yesterday. So thank you to the many of you who turned up in the blisteringly heavy amounts of rain yesterday to sit through our session and to also ask quite a number of questions. Thank you very much for those questions. They were brilliant. Really enjoyed those. So we talked about several parts of this in the topics of AI. AI is absolutely brilliant. It will be within organizations, regardless of whether or not it is adopted as in like a personalized version or whether or not it's a corporate version that comes through. But the thing that most organizations need to be first and foremost considering is a data strategy. And we spoke about this yesterday, and that's understanding where your data lives. So we talk about this from the 5 pillars of a data strategy. So first, identify, understand where your data lives, what applications it lives in, what platforms it lives in, and what data it has. So for example, if you have a CRM, there may be some PII, personalized information, which is something that we need to make sure that we are securing. Then secondly, governing it. Put some governance around how that data is kept, what periods it's kept for, and what are the controls and mechanisms we put behind when we keep those data. Number 5, connecting data. Data is absolutely crucial when it is enriched with other data within organizations. Now, data organizations have several repositories, silos, examples for where data can live. Things could be in an ERP, CRM, things could be in an accounting package, etc. And these can then, once correlated or connected to each other, enrich the data and give real business value. And that is a return on investment that you cannot ignore. 4th one in the 5 pillars is around security. Secure that data. Absolutely. Make sure you understand what your governance requirements are. If you need to maintain compliance with certain regulations, make sure you're doing that and applying the security protocols around that. Any organization, regardless of the size, should be considering these steps right now. There are very good small steps that an organization can take to be more secure, including things like multi-factor authentication, password SSO, or single sign-on authorization, for example. Number five, manage the process. And it doesn't matter how many times we say this, but a managed service provider can certainly help in all of these aspects, making sure that you are keeping up to date with your security and governance compliance requirements, making sure that the security permissions are regularly updated, checked, and revoked. One of the key factors we found out yesterday in the session with Varonis and Microsoft is a crazy one. Statistically speaking, as soon as you start in an organization on day one, you will have access to over 17 million files on average. 17 million. So, as a new user, if you were to be breached, you could potentially have quite a large blast radius. And one of the reasons when Microsoft speaks to us around security, they're very conscious around this is because there are a lot of services that the Microsoft M365 platform that has by default, as an example, that may not be applied, which you already have access to through your licensing. Things like data loss prevention, identity and access management. If you'd like to learn more about that, please reach out. I'm more than happy to introduce you to one of our sessions that we are having and hosting in the next few weeks around both of those topics, and would love to have your input. But these are the sort of things that organizations can turn on relatively quickly and to increase your cybersecurity posture. So please keep that in mind. Understand that there is a ton of information out there, and we can help disseminate that with workshops that we do quite regularly. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Send me a direct message, as many of you do, and I will do my best to get back to you. So, as always, it has been an absolutely crazy week. Microsoft Copilot events are happening with us across the nation, to be fair. We will be doing the next event in Melbourne, potentially one in Brisbane the month following, Adelaide and Perth possibly following the months after. If you're interested in learning more about Microsoft Copilot, how it can be efficient, and I'll give you one of the greatest examples that I have had using Microsoft Copilot. I've been on a little bit of a sabbatical recently. I came back with near on 1,000 emails in my mailbox, and I asked Microsoft Copilot to summarize what was in my mailbox, and it came back with a brilliant summary. Efficiency is one example of how AI can really benefit your teams in regards to being able to make the most of their working day. So if you'd like to hear more about those sort of topics and how Microsoft AI or Microsoft Copilot can assist you in that, feel free to reach out. We will absolutely be running these sessions, and I'll happily introduce you to those links so that you can then register. As always, everyone, please be safe out there. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Stay dry, stay warm, and until next week, I look forward to catching up with you with our top tech sessions with myself. And be well, and as I always like to say,